Hello, a warm welcome from my side to the 6th International COP workshop on ecosystem-based adaptation. It's been really exciting the last few days, people registering. We can imagine that we are actually in a large conference hall and people are sort of coming in. We've had over 500 registered participants, so it's really exciting from all over the world. And before we have some opening words, I would like to show you a little bit where we are. So as you probably already seen, we have this talk platform. I'm just going to show it to you. One moment. And the talk platform is our home. So imagine this is our conference hall. If you go here on the agenda, this is where you can see what's happening. So I'll guide you through the agenda. So we're starting now with some keynotes, starting off the conference. After that, we'll have a little getting to know each other session because we want to know who's actually here, yeah? Who is participating? Have they been here before? Where are they from? So that's a chance to find out a bit about each other despite this virtual format. After that, we'll have some breakout sessions. So we have 3 topics today and we'll have more tomorrow. So those are sessions where you can participate in. You can choose which one you want to join. We will also have a few short breaks. After that, we have a marketplace. So this is something I can show you already here, but we'll explain it again later on. There's a tab here called Marketplace. And here are people presenting like in a market store. So they're having a poster and they present the work and you can interact with them. And as in a market, you're invited in this session to also change every few minutes. Sorry, every 10 minutes, that's right, yeah. And after that, we want to give you the opportunity to also network. So we have a special feature, which we'll explain a bit more later on, which is the networking feature. So we'll be having a little survey and asking you which topics you're interested in. And then you have a chance to join specific rooms. The networking tab is currently not present here, but it will get activated as soon as the networking session starts. That's right. And then we close for the day. Tomorrow we have a similar format. So we'll also have some keynotes starting for the day. Then we will have we'll have a marketplace session and then 2 breakout sessions. So where you can join specific topics. And then we'll close at the end of the day. That's right. And if you haven't had a chance to look around the platform yet, I just want to briefly show you. Here is where you can check out participants. You can enter in a search word. Let's put in coastal and see, oh, here are certain people that have put in their profile that they're working on coastal issues, and you can sort that. The marketplace we've just explained. Here is the media wall. And here you are highly invited to also add your publications or videos. So you can just click here on add a post and then share with the community something that you've been working on. And for a bit of interaction with the wider community, we also have a Twitter wall. So if you're on Twitter and you would like to tweet something about the conference, if you use the hashtags that are named there, then it will automatically appear here on this Twitter wall. Last but not least, we'll mention this again at the end of the workshop. This is more for the end, but we would like to already mention it now. We would love to hear from you. So how did you experience the event? What was useful for you? There are a few more other features which you can check out yourself. One thing just to show you here is that you can also edit your profile. So perhaps if you entered the event and let's say you clicked a few things and later on you thought, oh, no, actually, I'm also working on this and that, or I would like to feature this part of my work, you can go in there and edit again. You can also make yourself available for direct calls or take some personal notes. Okay, I think in terms of the agenda, that's all for now. One thing to mention now, I'll mention it again later on, is that we will record the breakouts. So The breakout sessions will be like Microsoft Teams meetings, typical kind of video calls, so there you can speak, you're part of it all. And if you would not like to be recorded, then we would ask you to leave your camera off and not speak. Otherwise, for the live streams, they're happening as you're experiencing right now in this video stream. And you'll see on the right-hand side, there's an opportunity to post some comments or questions in the chat. Okay. With that, I'd like to hand over to Harald Lossack. Harald is the head of the ICI-funded and GIZ-implemented global project for mainstreaming ecosystem-based adaptation, strengthening EBA in planning and decision-making processes. Harald has served as a cluster coordinator of GIZ's biodiversity program in Mexico from 2018 until 2021. Previously, he headed the Competence Center on Biodiversity, Forests and Natural Resources within the GIZ Division of Environment and Climate Change. Prior to that, Harald Lossack coordinated the GIZ-supported pilot program for the conservation of tropical rainforests in Brazil. He has degrees in development sociology and political science from the Free University of Berlin. Harald Lossack, I hand over to you for some welcoming words to our conference.
Thank you very much, Tina. Dear colleagues from all parts of the world, on behalf of GIZ, I am very excited to welcome you to the annual workshop of the International EBA Community of Practice. Let's call it COP6. Under the heading, Moving Forward, New Horizons and Synergies for EBA. Unfortunately, it's now for the second time that we have to meet virtually due to the still ongoing pandemic. But there's also good news in it. We reduce our carbon footprint and we broaden at the same time our outreach and audience. The EBA COP has proven to be one of the most important knowledge and expert networks for EBA, advancing EBA knowledge beyond projects, institutions, and regional boundaries. Over the last years, the International EBA COP has defined a modus operandi and further developed its structure. In past workshops, we have discussed and worked on the main entry points for EBA, monitoring and evaluation, economic assessment and evidence basis for EBA, financing options, vulnerability assessments, governance aspects, and networks and implementation issues, as well as tools, policies, and solutions linked to these topics. The main focus of this year's meeting on new horizons and synergies for EBA is especially challenging due to several factors. The climate crisis has definitely arrived at the top of national and international agendas. In recent years, so-called natural disasters have multiplied all over the world, and their respective extraordinary costs have underpinned the need for urgent action. At the same time, there is a growing understanding of how important it is to align the different agendas of mitigation, adaptation, and biodiversity. It was a great achievement that at COP26 in Glasgow, parties reinforced the role of adaptation, and the focus of the upcoming COP27 in Egypt will be adaptation as well. In parallel, we are discussing a new global biodiversity framework which opens the scene for joint efforts between the climate and biodiversity communities. And EBA is at the heart of it. The International Climate Initiative has always been engaged in the three areas of mitigation, adaptation, and biodiversity. And it will be exciting to see how this will develop after the promising change in the German government. For the first time, climate policies will be handled as key concern and cross-cutting issue for all ministries on their way to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. We have put together a broad and challenging agenda for this EBA COP. We will discuss the key aspects of EBA, looking at the future of this community of practice in general and with a special regard to the eKey interface projects. We will focus on nature-based solutions where EBA is understood synonymously with Nbs for adaptation. We will highlight gender issues. We will talk about the challenge of financing with new instruments appearing on the scene, and we will examine the role of EBA in NDCs. We will discuss EBA in soils and the relationship between EBA and agroecology. And we take a look at the current stage of the global project on mainstreaming EBA, focusing new initiatives and approaches such as the EBA support facility, an e-learning course, and the new approaches for EBA in the context of climate justice. For this sake, in these 2 days, we will offer a platform for ambitious and harmonized approaches, for an exchange of experience, evidence-based lessons learned, best practices, and impacts. To maximize the benefit, we will be using plenary sessions and breakout rooms, a marketplace, an exhibition space, a social media wall, and networking features, including options for video calls and chats. We all hope that next time it will be possible to meet again in person. On behalf of the organizing team, we wish you now a very insightful and interesting meeting, and thank you very much for the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Losser. Thank you. So now we're looking forward to hearing some keynotes on the framework conditions for the future of EBA. For this, we've invited Dr. Philipp Behrens, Elke Steinmetz, both from the German Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection, new long name, the BMUV, and Dr. Martina Greib from Arepo Consult. I'd like to start with Dr. Philipp Behrens. He is the head of the division of the International Climate Initiative in the ministry, and he's worked for the Federal Environment Ministry for more than 13 years, starting his ministerial career in the climate division, and has since worked in various national, European, and international areas. Before taking over the ICI in 2019, the law graduate with a doctorate in public international law headed the Minister's Cabinet Affairs Unit for 5 years. Mr. Behrens, over to you.
Thank you very much. And also from me, a warm welcome to this COP6, as Harald called it. And also thanks a lot, Harald, for setting the theme. And thank you all very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of the International Climate Initiative, the ICI. Many of the participants of today's meeting will already be familiar with the format, while others are joining it for the first time. I can say that we are particularly happy that we are today joined by the representatives from our ICI interface projects. For those of you who are not familiar with the term interface project, those projects are based in our ICI priority countries, such as South Africa, Vietnam, India, Indonesia, and so on. And they have the objectives of promoting the exchange between ICI implementing organizations in country, pooling information on the ICI portfolio, and supporting the policy dialogue with partner governments and other stakeholders. So these interface projects are our key instrument for the bilateral cooperation with our priority countries. I'm very pleased to see that the EBA community of practice is gathering already for the 6th time. The COP is always a great opportunity to reflect on what lies ahead, but also on what has been reached already. Looking back at the UNFCCC COP in Glasgow last year, significant progress has been made. First of all, we are all delighted that the Adaptation Fund has received record pledges by 16 donors worth over $350 million. With a fund of now almost $1 billion, the Adaptation Fund continues to be a key instrument in the architecture of international adaptation finance for developing countries. Germany has been a strong ally of the fund, having contributed via the EKI more than $400 million over the last years. And we are very grateful that the fund has now received such strong support by new donors. I think that this sends out a very strong signal that the international community is indeed willing to scale up finance on adaptation. Moreover, with the EKI, we have committed to provide additional support of 10 million euros for the Global EBA Fund. With now 30 million euros, the funding of more than 80 small-scale EBA interventions is possible. We are convinced that the Global EBA Fund will continue to make important contributions by offering fast financial access for innovative EBA measures on the ground. Beyond those new pledges, COP26 has also reconfirmed the need for progress towards the global goal on adaptation. During the COP, the Glasgow Sharm el-Sheikh work program was adopted, and by that paving a way towards the global goal on adaptation. COP26 has also highlighted the importance of developing national adaptation plans and encouraged all parties once more to develop national strategies to better align and support cross-sectoral adaptation activities. This is an area where the EKI has also made significant contributions, having supported more than 30 countries to set up or advance their national adaptation planning. Moreover, many representatives of the private sector joined the discussions at the COP26. And that is also a good sign that the awareness of this sector has raised significantly. And with that, the opportunity to scale up EBA activities increases as well. And last but not least, nature and ecosystem-based approaches played a very big role at COP26, showcasing solutions to address the interlinked challenges of climate change and biodiversity loss. It is a great achievement of the whole EBA community to have strongly contributed to the momentum of NBS, has built up over the last years, illustrating your overwhelming engagement and commitment through numerous side events and meetings with policymakers. Looking back, the EBA community and the FIBA network have already made significant achievements. Over more than a decade, you have provided a strong evidence base on the effectiveness of EBA and successfully promoted the integration and adaptation of EBA in multiple contexts, ranging from gender to urban and infrastructure development, humanitarian contexts, and disaster risks, just to name a few. We are pleased to see such a vivid community at the core of all these achievements. Without your support and through our events, the EBA COP, the EBA Knowledge Day, or the FIBA members meeting, the exchange of experiences and sharing your expertise could have never reached such a wide audience and strong network. Going forward, continuing to promote EBA and actively engaging in the discussion and operationalization of nature-based solutions for adaptation will remain an important task. Integrating EBA in NAPs and promoting an even stronger interlinkage between biodiversity, adaptation, and mitigation is an important goal of the EKI adaptation portfolio. Looking at our agenda for the COP6, I am confident that the EBA community will continue to be a strong voice to make our societies and ecosystems more resilient. We also want to encourage and invite all newcomers to actively engage at this workshop and beyond. We can only get better when we learn from each other, reach out to new stakeholders, and continue sharing our experiences. One important part of this is learning and sharing. That's the evaluation of projects. In the framework of our EKI evaluation approach, the colleagues from AREPO have conducted a strategic impact evaluation on the catalytic impact of ecosystem-based adaptation projects of the EKI. And I'm very curious to hear what insights they will share with us today. At EKI, we have always tried to look at the global challenges from both the climate and the biodiversity perspective. I think especially in the BMU, the climate and the biodiversity people are cooperating intensively and with a lot of success. And I'm convinced that we will continue to do so even under the new government structure. And this is why I'm glad that my colleague Elke Steinmetz, head of the Division of International Cooperation on Biodiversity, is here with us today to share her perspective on EBA. So thank you very much for this unique platform. Once more, I would like to express my gratitude for keeping up the efforts, and I wish all of you a healthy and successful year. With that, thank you very much, and I hand over to Elke.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Behrens. Yes, and as you said, biodiversity and climate topics are interlinked. So we're very much looking forward to hearing from Elke Steinmetz in a minute, because we also wanted to see if there were perhaps any questions to you in the platform. I think in a minute, just now when I had a look, there was nothing there. So perhaps people are still just getting warm. If you have a question to Dr. Behrens, you can post it now. Otherwise, that's fine. We can just move on, and there are more opportunities to comment and ask questions later on. Just checking the chat. Nothing there right now. That's fine. Okay, well, thank you very much, Dr. Behrens. And yes, now we'll hand over to your colleague, Ms. Elke Steinmetz, also from the BMUV with the long title. Elke Steinmetz holds a Master of Anthropology and Geography and dedicated her professional life to the conservation and restoration of biodiversity. She has worked both in science and in the field before entering the German federal government in 2003. Since then, she served in different units of the Federal Agency for Nature Conservation and the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation, Nuclear Safety and Consumer Protection. Ms. Steinmetz, I hand over to you for some keynote opening words for our conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tina, and thank you, Philip, for your kind words. And welcome and greetings to everyone. I'm sending greetings here from my home office in Cologne. I think, as most of you, we are not in the position to go to the offices to meet colleagues, which is really a pity. And I'm thus very, very thankful that we have the opportunity to meet online virtually. Well, yes, when I was informed about this meeting to take place, I just read in my email the abbreviation EBA COP. And as in my world, a COP is a conference of the parties to the Convention on Biodiversity. I was really astonished and a bit irritated, because I thought, wow, now is the time when EBA, this great approach, reaches the attention to the COP that it deserves. But now I understood that the COP is not the COP, but the community of practice, which is even better, because I think, and I'm sure that we will realize that through the 2 days, that here in this round of more than 500 colleagues, you are the ones that really can tell a story about EBA. You are the ones that know what goes on in the field and what is hands-on on implementation of EBA. So it's even better than a conference of the parties. So I'm very thankful for being invited. Yeah, as Philip mentioned and Harald also before, we are looking back on COP26 with the impression that that finally the understanding of the interconnection between biodiversity and climate has reached the Conference of the Parties, both in climate and in biodiversity. And especially COP26 was very encouraging because there was also a growing understanding on what is called the Nbs Concept. I must say that I see that still many people cannot really sort out what is a nature-based solution, and it's still very abstract, this concept. But we as EBA practitioners and EBA fans know what it's about, and we know that it's the Nbs for adaptation. But as I said, I think especially through COP26, the understanding is growing, and we at BMUV are very happy that IUCN came up with a very good definition on nature-based solutions, which we use, and which fits very well to the EBA concept as well. Well, as I mentioned, the COP26 UNFCCC, I also want to highlight the fact that also Harald already mentioned that we will have a COP15 CBD ahead of us. The first part took place in October, which was only a political start, but the negotiations are continuing, and we will have a COP15 in the course of the year. It's not clear when, but it will be determined very soon. And the core of this CBD Conference of the Parties will be a new global biodiversity framework post-2020. And this global biodiversity framework will try to interconnect all the aspects that have been in single targets under the Aichi targets. And the global biodiversity framework will be a much more holistic approach to address global challenges. And as we, as Germany, are negotiator ourselves within the European Union, one of our focuses is on an implementation mechanism in this related to this global biodiversity framework. And this is something where really EBA comes into the negotiations, because the implementation of all the global goals that will be decided for during COP15, the implementation of them is the most important part of all agreements. And again, as I stated many times before, I think that you as practitioners have really something to tell in this context. And I'm extremely happy to hear that the interface projects are with us today, because I think that you are the ones that have also some more possibility to get into contact with partner countries and to discuss with them and make them stronger in their impact on the negotiations for the global biodiversity framework, also from the implementing point of view. So I'm really happy to hear that you're with us today. Well, I've been talking a lot about nature-based solutions, which is still a quite new word and a new definition, a new concept, but what is behind it is not new. And there's another emerging concept, which is not new at all, but also trying to combine some aspects in a way that has not been looked at before. That is One Health. The One Health approach is something that is getting more and more important in our work with the biodiversity-related ET work, and I think especially also for the EBA community. It will be very interesting to have a closer look at this concept and to sort out whether and how and where healthy ecosystems, livelihoods, ecosystem conservation and restoration are interconnected, and how these integrated approaches can really serve with solutions, with nature-based solutions in that sense. So I just wanted to highlight from my point of view that this One Health approach is also a very important concept in our work, and I will be interested whether this also is interesting and important for you from a practitioner side. And yeah, finally, I would like to come back to the point on the new German government and the expectations that lie on the new government. And I can only support what Philip said and others before, that we expect a stronger focus on climate and climate protection policy, both nationally and internationally. And especially, I think the EBA approach is something that will link our units, even if the unit of Philip Behrens will be in another ministry quite soon than ours. But I think the very good and good cooperation and the good work together will still be alive, and especially through approaches like the EBA. So this gives hopefully a good light on the future. So with this, I'd like to come to an end, and thank you again for inviting me, and I'm very happy to answer questions and stand ready for discussions. I must say, unfortunately, I have only 1 hour from now on to go. This is a bad side of virtual meetings, that you're always tempted to jump into other meetings. It would be, of course, much better to be in the same place as you all are, and I'm really hoping that we will have this experience soon again, to meet in person. So with this, I give back to Tina. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Steinmetz, and you've given us a lot of food for thought, some questions to take with us the next 2 days. I think so far there are no direct questions to you in the chat, but it's nice if you can hang around a little while, because then after Ms. Greip has spoken, then we'll open up for some overall questions on the session. But thanks a lot so far. Thank you. Okay, and with that, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Martina Greip from Arepo Consult. Ms. Greip is a senior expert on adaptation and climate change mitigation, with more than 20 years of working experience in development cooperation. Since 2015, she holds the position of a project director at Arepo Consult. Her wide experiences encompass the working areas of ecosystem-based adaptation, forest landscape restoration and sustainable agriculture, climate financing and results-based financing, energy transition, and the development of climate-friendly energy systems. She was responsible for the strategic evaluation of EBA within the International Climate Initiative. And as a graduated agricultural economist by profession, she started her career as a rural development specialist and has worked in projects of the UNEP, GIZ, World Bank, and the EU, as well as private sector and municipal working experience in Africa, Latin America, and Asia. And as with all of our speakers, you can find more details on their background and biography if you click on the name in the platform. Dr. Greip, I hand over to you to shed some light on the catalytic effect of EBA.
Thank you very much, first of all, for the invitation. Dear Dr. Behrens, dear Mrs. Steinmetz, I'd like to present you and the EBA community out there the results of the strategic impact evaluation, and especially the catalytic role of the ICI in ecosystem-based adaptation. It is one of several evaluations that the ICI gave out to consultancies, and our focus was on the catalytic role in ecosystem-based adaptation in EBA. So first of all, let me thank my team, which was comprising of Christine Röhrlen, Caroline Pölling, Sven Morgan, and Arne Hennig. So who are we? We are a small but fine consultancy based in Berlin. We're working on adaptation and climate protection issues. We give policy advice, we do market analysis and country strategies, and we are nationally and internationally active. We have a small but fine adaptation team in which we do a lot of work on climate change adaptation, biodiversity, and with a focus on EBA. So what was the strategic impact evaluation all about? The objective was to find out whether and how the International Climate Initiative funded projects on EBA play a catalytic role either at the national level of the partner countries and or at the international level. So what was our approach? We used a theory-based mixed methods approach with various synthesis techniques, process tracing, portfolio analysis, and qualitative comparative analysis. Our evidence base was 33 projects which were given to us from the International Climate Initiative. It were EBA projects which started in 2018 and closed in 2017. Apart from that, we did a series of interviews. We did 3 country case studies in Vietnam, Peru, and Grenada, and an in-depth study of one of the global platform projects of the IUCN EBA Evidence and Policy. The timeline is that we started in August last year. We started with interviews throughout the whole time, and the evaluation terminated in August. We started in 2020 and we ended up in 2021, which is 1 year after. So what were our working hypotheses? Our working hypotheses are, the first one is ICI EBA projects are able to develop catalytic impact through influencing the multilateral negotiations in the context of UNFCCC and CBD. That was the first. The second was that ICI EBA projects are able to develop catalytic impact by using a multiplier effect. So what did we do? We worked out 3 work streams. One was the multiplier pathway, where we looked at the project level. You out there, we studied in depth your outcomes in terms of taking into account the reports. We did an outcome harvesting of catalytic project outcomes, and after that, a project success assessment based on the coding of the 33 projects. In our work stream 2, we looked at the negotiation pathway of CBD and UNFCCC and how further projects, especially the global ones, influenced these levels. So does EBA influence negotiations over the projects or EBA projects? If yes, how? We did that work stream by coding of project activities, coding of the convention guidance and the case study of IIED with additional research. And also we looked into NDCs, NUPs and IMBISUBs, and we interviewed project teams and negotiators. Work stream 3 was that we brought both pathways together and looked at if the potentially catalytic results really led to a catalytic impact. That means that we tested the causal chain. So what was the role of catalytic outcome in terms of catalytic impact? I know that it's a bit difficult to understand what we understand by catalytic impact. That's why I again tried to highlight this in here. We used the JEF IEO evaluation, and said that catalytic impacts are not within this direct sphere of influence of the project. That means that they are beyond the outcome and the outputs. They result in accelerated diffusion of best practices, either in terms of qualitative improvements or as faster or wider application of the approach. And of course, they are supported by evidence. So what are our results? If we come to the negotiation pathway, here are our conclusions. We can say that the EBA approach was successfully anchored. It was successfully anchored in the positioning of CBD. If we look at the convention level, we could not find any direct influence at UNFCCC convention level. But then, if we look at the working group level of UNFCCC and CBD, it's the other way around. We found that EBA was successful at UNFCCC. That means that EBA was broadly represented at UNFCCC negotiation level, at Substar SBIs and so on. And we've also found EBA in many reports. But if it comes to the working group level of CBD, we found that EBA was also strongly represented, but influence or success what was not really found. So what does that mean? We say that the type of influence of the project has impacts on its success. At CBD, we found a direct contribution to the implementation of EBA in CBD documents and decisions, especially the use of knowledge products or outputs by the CBD Secretariat was mainly used for guideline development, and voluntary guidelines were used by decision makers. In the UNFCCC, as said, rather indirectly via technical pages, such as the Nairobi Work Program, or we also found that, for instance, the FIBA Secretariat was able to feed into the specialized experts groups, and there we also found a catalytic impact. So now coming to the project level and the multiplier pathway, we found that the EBA approach is included in many official documents. We now found that EBA term, though, is known differently. If we look at different states, for instance, Peru, country studies said that there is a very good knowledge of EBA on all levels. In Vietnam, rather, there is a limited approach on the lower level. And if we look at the politicians, ministry, and official levels and informed circles, yes, we have a good knowledge of EBA and understanding as well. In Grenada, there is also far only a limited number of projects, so we didn't really come to conclusions. Now, if we look at the catalytic impact, here I present the findings from the case studies. We found that financing mechanisms play an important role in the catalytic effect. In Peru, it's Fondesurco. In Vietnam, it's one about shrimp processing. We also found that learning processes are important if it comes to regional strategies. For example, in Peru, there is a local change agent which served as a trigger for the formation of a council on climate change, which is promoting climate change. And also, if it comes to environmental and resource policy, we found in Vietnam that EBA approach has been adopted by the provincial government and piloted through another project government funding program. And also in Peru, we found at national level that there's a high political commitment and national and regional level, which also leads to further projects by the ministries themselves. So we were likely to see that catalytic impacts seems more likely to succeed in a country when you have a certain sequencing of the implementation of projects. That includes different focus, capacity development, policy advice, funding, different government levels, different ecosystems, and one decade. So if I'm trying to now explain that in a model, it seems that local level, regional level, financing and international projects at implementation level are really playing very well together if you put them into a small decade of, say, 10 years. If you implement them, then you can actually influence all levels which you want to influence: INDCs, NDCs, EBA, financing, adjustment of guidelines, NUPs, and so on. But everything has also its other side, downside. There might also be possible negative influences on catalytic impacts. We identified them in the overlay of the EBA approach by NBS. I've heard that Mrs. Steinmetz said we, of course, that the NBS approach is now prominently discussed at COP and other levels, but still in Peru we found that there's a bit of a fear maybe that the EBA approach might be overlaid by the NBS approach. Also in Vietnam they said, okay, there are other replications of other approaches that could override EBA, and they valued EBA as a familiar approach, and so there is now also a bit of a concern that EBA could be overridden by other concepts, maybe One Health, I don't know. Grenada, yes, I said that we didn't find out much because it's really premature to say something. We also did a QCA. We looked at the definition of the catalytic effect. We looked at projects with the final report. We developed certain conditions, and we said in the end, access to sufficient financial resources as well as the learning between projects must be present to have a catalytic effect. So here I come to our selected recommendations, which are country programs shall apply a multi-level and multi-project approach, work with different ecosystems in the country, highlights them, integrate EBA systematically into other sectors, see cooperation with local, regional, and national funds, especially when you look at private donors. They are important replicators. Keep the link to global platform projects and South-South exchange. In that respect, it might be interesting that DOs should be more supportive to submit more funding projects or projects with funding components to ICI. That seems very important to highlight. So this is my last slide. What are recommendations to implement? That's only a selection. We also have a lot of others. So on the negotiation pathway, we say, okay, try to address all 9 UNFCCC groups, think and then use other tools such as webinars beyond the negotiations, because negotiators are really happy and keen to be informed by the project throughout the process and not only before the COP. So remain connected with the negotiator throughout the years, and it's worth providing technical input to the convention subsidiary bodies and working groups. And with this, I would thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Greib. So a lot of insight into the process. So I would like to open up the question and answer session to everyone. So if you have some specific questions to Dr. Greib, but also to Dr. Steinmetz and the others. I'm seeing one here right now. Dr. Steinmetz, there was a question here saying, thank you for the great and inspiring opening remarks and keynotes. I would be interested to hear from Dr. Behrens and Ms. Steinmetz what Germany's perspective is on nature-based solutions and the future of this terminology, considering the recent disagreements at the COP26 in Glasgow.
Yeah, thank you very much for this question, and thank you, Frau Greib, Madam Greib, for your presentation. After I have answered my question, I would also like to pose a question to Mrs. Greib, if I may, because I found her presentation extremely interesting. Well, to the concrete question, I'm very thankful for this question because I might not have made myself well understood, but I think it's important to point on that again. Well, yes, it's true that the terminology has come up now as a new terminology which is used by almost everyone. But my understanding is very much the same as, for example, FIBA states on their website. I'm a little bit tempted to quote them, colleagues, but it's an umbrella term which is helpful for communication and for mainstreaming the concept, the idea, into other sectors. But it's only that. It's only the umbrella. And the EBA approach is old, but it's fresh. It's really the approach which is very well established, very well experienced, and so I'm convinced that the idea and the approach of EBA is the one that counts on the ground. From my very personal perspective, I doubt that we will come up with an NBS wording in the global biodiversity framework. But to an extent, it's more important to have the content, to have an understanding that nature serves with solutions. So this is my sincere belief that it's more important to have the idea of solutions that are provided by nature, like EBA, are there to provide solutions. So this is my personal view. And again, I can only say that using this terminology of NBS is still important to gather understanding, to get attention for the idea that is behind. So I hope I have given an answer to that, but it was also posed to Philip. I'm not sure whether he's still available. In the time when you check that, maybe I can ask my question.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Yeah. To Mrs. Greif. Thank you very much for your presentation, which was really impressive. And although knowing the results before, it was very good to have the results now in a compact version as you presented it. I'm not sure whether you mentioned the instrument that the CBD parties have for their national governance on biodiversity, which are the NBSAPs, the National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans. I didn't see it on the screen, and my connection was a bit interrupted, so I'm not sure whether you pointed on them or whether you did not at this point. But I would be interested whether you had also a chance to look at national biodiversity strategies, whether they take up the EBA as a concept on national level, reflecting the experiences that national partners have. That would be a very interesting question, if I may pose that one. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. The answer is that within our case studies, we found out that, for instance, Vietnam's mainstreaming EBA had an impact on INDC and national programs such as PIPA, or the Vietnam scaling up mangrove EBA project had an impact on NAPS and NDC. So individual projects had, of course, their influences on NAPS or NDCs. In Peru, the same. In Peru, for instance, we found that MEBA EBA Amazonia, mainstreaming EBA, or water resource management had influences on NDCs and NAPS, So, but outside the case studies, we found no direct evidence for the hypotheses that NAPS, NBSUBs, and NDCs result in national policies using EBA.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here from the audience. Dr. Greib, thank you for your presentation. In your presentation, you mentioned that in Peru, there is a possible overlay of EBA approach with the nature-based solutions approach. UICN, I assume that's IUCN, considers EBA very similar to NBS for adaptation. Are they not the same, or do they have different visions?
Yeah, that's what we found in our case studies. There's a bit of a confusion now because people said to us that EBA is a clear-cut concept that everyone has understood, from the farmer to the local, provincial, and national level, what EBA is. Because there have been, within a decade, there has been so much, there have been so many projects on so many levels. So there is a really well understanding everywhere. But now a new term, nature-based solutions, is introduced, and people felt that this is against the people from the capital that try to come up with a new approach, and by trying to bring it down, and that it is top down, and that we don't want it, and why that, and why in the international context, and we don't care maybe all about the international, but we want it in the national context. So that's what we found, that there is a bit of concern in that you know, NBS as term might override the clear-cut EBA concept, not concept, but the term.
Yes, Ms. Steinmetz?
Thank you, Tina. I'm tempted to say a word in addition to what Dr. Greib said. I think it's important to really make clear what are examples for NBS, for nature-based solutions. So EBA approaches are an example for NBS, for adaptation. I think Harald will acknowledge and know very much the forest landscape restoration approach is a very good example for a nature-based solution for mitigation. So I think it's important to always come with concrete examples to explain that the approaches are there, and NBS is an umbrella, but to make clear where is the right level that we're talking about. And well, I think my message is just to say that to the EBA community that you have really a strong message to say and a strong experience to deliver. So I think there's no fear in being overruled by the NBS approach.
Okay, thank you very much. And like you said, it's an umbrella term that the others fall under. Well, thank you very much to all of you for your keynotes. And that's really got us starting into the conference, got our brains active and warm. So thanks a lot for that. And yeah, you're welcome to join any other parts of the conference. You have the link. So all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. And so now, after we've had a bit of a warm-up, diving into the topic, we would also like to connect a little bit with the community here. So as you've perhaps seen, that we have many, many people registered. And of course, because we have different time zones, people might not be all present at the same time. That's why also we scheduled it this way, so that today it's more accessible to people in the western part of the world, of course, from a European perspective. And tomorrow morning is more accessible for Asia and Australia, Oceania. But we'd like to see who's here now. And for that, we would like to conduct a little poll with you. And this works this way, that where you have the chat, the Q&A, there's another tab that says polls. So the poll is going to be activated right now. And for any of you who have problems with opening it, sometimes there can be an issue with cookies, then just click on where it says open in a new tab. Yeah, so if you open it in a new tab, then it might be easier if you're having problems looking at the poll within the platform. Okay, so I'm hoping that works for everyone. And yeah, we'd like to go to the first question. So the first question is, what country are you located in right now? So let's have a look and see. Please answer. And we'll see what comes up there. Let us know in the chat if you're having a problem. But it should be working. Let us know in the chat. Okay. So let's have a look and see. I'm going to do a screen share here to have a look at the results. Which countries do we have present right now at this point in time? Just one moment. Okay. And yeah, the results should be visible to you also. Seeing here word cloud with a lot of Germany, but we also have several from Costa Rica, from Nepal and Mexico, and all around the place, United States, so Lesotho, Nigeria, Kathmandu, Switzerland, Guatemala, Brazil, Philippines, Ghana, fantastic, Cambodia, Georgia, France, Finland. So that's really exciting, and we encourage you to get connected with each other. Wonderful. So let's have a look at the next question. The next question to you is, how many COP workshops have you attended? So we would like to find out, in German we would say, whether your old rabbits, alte Hasen, you know, is this your sixth, I was going to say Conference of the Parties, your sixth community of practice workshop, or is this the first one you've attended? So let's have a look and see what's coming up there. Okay, so I'm seeing in the results, yeah, no, they're coming in, the results. So for about 60%, it's the first workshop you've attended. 25%, it's the second. And then there are decreasing numbers where it's the third, the fourth, or even more. Great. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay, so the next question we have is, in your own work, what will be your biggest priority in relation to EBA in 2022? So we would like to understand, you know, why are you here? How is this connected to your work? How is it relevant to you? So let's have a look and see what's coming up there. So this might take a little time because you've got a few things to mention. Yes, so let's have a look at that. Gender sensitive EBA. Yes, those are all topics that are here. EBA and global stocktake, research projects, urban design, capacity building of environmental organizations, implementing EBA to regenerative agriculture, coordinating ICI-funded project in Russia, I think it said, peatland, mangrove and forested landscapes, flood risk. Yeah, so there's a lot there. You can scroll up and down in the results, and we'll definitely also make them available. But this is great to see what your focus is this year. Obtaining financing, influencing project design, knowledge management. Excellent. Engineering is not only about hard infrastructure. Okay, strengthening community-based adaptation, advising the BMZ, not the German Ministry for Economic Cooperation. and development, upscaling EBA. Great. Thank you very much. That's very interesting to read. Biodiversity sector. Great. And now the last question that we have is one that we will also use further on in this program. And that's the question, what would you most like to talk about during this community of practice workshop? So as mentioned before, we will have a networking session later on. And the results that you're sharing with us now, we're going to use to create some rooms with certain themes. But just to be clear, I'll explain it again later on. This is not that you only have to talk about this topic. The idea with the networking is that it's really informal. We're trying to create a space like you would perhaps, have if you were at a coffee bar, in a conference hall. But we thought rather than just throwing you all together in any way, we thought it's nice to connect you around a certain topic. So what would you most like to talk about during this community of practice workshop? So let me see. And best is if you state one topic like you've done so far, and you can also state several topics, so you don't have to have it restricted to only one. Okay, and the results should be popping up for you as well. Adaptation, obviously, that's in the name, yes. Synergies, finance, okay, so those are some topics that are coming up strong. Financing, yeah. Gender, it's been mentioned several times. Climate justice, and I saw a post in the media wall that there's currently a job advertisement for climate justice at GIZ, just on the side. So that's a good idea to have a look there. Indicators for success, flood, urban EBA experiences, NBS EBA, like what we just talked about. Yeah, freshwater, etc. Great, thanks a lot. So that will be good, good resources for us to create some networking rooms later on. And of course, you're also more than welcome to just contact other participants in the platform. Okay, well, thanks a lot for that. And now we would like to explain to you how the breakouts work. So as a next session, we'll be having breakouts. So breakouts are basically that you get together for an hour on a specific topic. And the topics we have today is getting gender into EBA implementation, ecosystem soil, linking EBA approaches with soil and land management. And the third breakout is a how-to guide, Panorama Solutions for a Healthy Planet. The breakout sessions will take place after a break, and they will go for an hour, and you're invited to choose one and also stay there. So different to the marketplace where you're invited to move around like you would at a stall at a market, this one is one where you're invited to be more present. Technically, it's a Microsoft Teams session, and that way, you know how those works. You can join there, you can participate, you can talk, etc. I'll show you in a minute how it works technically, how you go into the marketplaces. But before I do that, I would like to invite those holding the breakouts for a small pitch of what their session will be about. So I'd like to start with Louise, getting gender into EBA implementation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tina. And I would very much like to invite everyone to join me for a session on getting gender into EBA implementation. This session is going to be a very interactive one. So if you're enjoying developing new ideas, discussing, exchanging on a topic, this session is for you. We will not only talk about what gender responsive EBA actually means, but also look into why it's so difficult to implement it. You will learn more about a GIZ report on gender responsive EBA, which we published last year together with IISD. And then we will also dive into smaller groups where we will work on identifying ways to deal with the difficulties of implementing a gender responsive approach. The session will also include a discussion on other forms of marginalization that are not only linked to gender. So if this makes you curious, then please join the breakout session on getting gender into EBA implementation. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Louise. Then I hand over to Ulrich Kindermann to enlighten us about ecosystem soil linking EBA approaches with soil and land management.
Yes, thank you, and hello from my side. So we heard that this year there is the climate COP in Egypt, and we have the biodiversity COP in Kunming. We also have the UNCCD COP in Abidjan, so the UN Convention on Land Degradation and Desertification. So we have all three Rio Convention meetings this year, 30 years after the Earth Summit, so it's an anniversary. And you might think, where's the common ground on all these three 30 years later? And we would argue that the common ground is in the ground. It's in soil and sustainable land management. And while there's a lot of discussion on nature-based solutions in forests or in EBA mangroves, we would argue that the potentials and also the threats linked to healthy soils and sustainable land management are not discussed enough yet. And there's a huge potential, not only in terms of soil organic carbon, what the mitigation people are looking at, but also in the ecosystem services linked to soil for the water cycle, etc. So we'll have two parts. On the first part, we'll look in soils and why is soil, where are the interlinkages, where is soil a topic? And then we'll talk about sustainable land management with colleagues from the Economics of Land Degradation initiative who will join us for this topic today. And we would welcome all of you to join us as well for this important topic, which we would believe receives more attention.
Thanks a lot. Great. Okay. And then for the last session, I'd like to invite Juanita Schmidhammer about the how-to guide.
Hi, thank you, Tina. So my colleague Lucas and I would like to invite you all to join us in our session about the Panorama Solutions platform. So for those who haven't heard about it as yet, Panorama Solutions is a partnership aimed at documenting and sharing inspiring replicable solutions from around the world in the area of conservation and sustainable development. So our session is sort of a guided tour and a how-to guide to help you make the most of the Panorama platform to guide and also share your own work. We'll show you how to navigate the platform to find relevant solutions, how to contribute your own solutions, and what you should take into consideration a good solution. If you'd like to learn how other people have solved challenges similar to what you're facing, or if you'd like to share what's worked for you to help other practitioners, then the session is for you. We hope to see you there.
Great. And so now I would like to show you how you can participate in the breakout sessions. If you go on the agenda, I'm just going to share my screen. Here we go. So if you go to the agenda, you scroll down to the point where we are. Here you can choose a session. So here's, for example, Juanita's session. Then you click here on breakouts, and then you'll have the opportunity to join the session. That will come then after the break. At the moment, it's not there yet. It will say enter session. It should be pretty straightforward. So again, you go to the agenda, choose the session you would like to use, and then you join the session. We would like to also mention again that the breakout sessions will be recorded. So if you would not like to be recorded, or you would not like to be visible, then please turn off your camera and also don't write anything in the chat. The recordings will be published on the YouTube channel of the Community of Practice. And also, I'm just going to scroll one forward, because this is a Microsoft Teams call, you have more chance to engage, so we really invite that. If you're not using Microsoft Teams very often, then check your audio and video settings. Probably someone can help you if you have a problem. That often happens that when you've used something else beforehand, then it's perhaps occupied. So check that out. If you're not speaking, please mute your microphone so you don't have an echo. And Microsoft Teams also has the hand raising function. And for those of you who are more in the lead to facilitate the session, just a reminder that the raised hands appear chronologically. So the person who raised the hand first will be at the top of the list, and that gives you a good way of taking turns. Great. And in general, if you have any problems, the platform, I hadn't mentioned that before, there's also a support tab with some frequently asked questions, but also contacts if you have technical problems. Okay, so I wish you a good break, and then we'd like to ask you to go to the breakouts directly after the break at 4:30 Central European Time. Have a good break and see you there. Hello and welcome everyone back from the break. I hope you had a good short break and some nice breakout sessions. I would like to explain to you what's happening now. So on the agenda, we now have networking, and after that, the marketplace. And I'll show you how it works. I'm just going to do a screen share. One moment. Here we go. So I'm doing a screen share of the platform. Here you can see we're on the agenda. And for networking, what you do is you go up here up the top. So there's a tab now that's appeared that wasn't there before. And in case you're not seeing it, the one thing you can do is refresh the browser, then you can see it. Or also sometimes perhaps if you have a small appearance on your screen, or rather actually you have everything quite large, then you'll see that here some tabs disappear in the 3 dots. So if you can't see it, have a look there. So let's go there. So this is the networking page. And here we've started some rooms based on the topics that you mentioned. What might be a bit confusing is that here you have new rooms and here you have all rooms. Later on, once you've joined, you'll even have popular rooms. This is just an automatic feature. But actually, if you go down here, if you scroll to all, you can see here are 10 rooms that we set up based on the feedback of the poll. However, if you feel that your topic is not there, for example, there was something related, there was the mention of risks and also a flood. And we were thinking, should that be, flood could be part of this one here, of integrated water resource management. But it could also be that people would like to talk about flood under the umbrella of risks. Then you can also start a discussion here. So you click on here. I'm not going to do it right now, but it's very easy. You click on it, and then you can start another room. And the topics are just topics that we wanted to offer to you so that you could get together. But you might know this from other conferences where it's called like an open space format. You can put whatever topic you want. So perhaps your topic is just networking or colleagues in Costa Rica or Latin America or so, yeah? So this is up to you. This is your chance to have a bit of a chat in a more informal way. And invite others to your table. Okay, after the networking session, we will have the marketplace session. So I'm going back to the agenda. And because we're not having another live stream introduction of the marketplace, I'm going to show you how that works. So here at 6:40 Central European Time, we have the marketplace. And as mentioned previously, the marketplace, it's like a market where you have lots of different stalls and you can wander around. So let's have a look and see. So I'll click in here into here. Oops. And here you will see the different market stalls. So there's one an EBA support facility, on the new EBA learning course, e-learning course, on M&E, on the Global EBA Fund, future needs of the EBA COP, and Urban EBA. So you'll see here are some speakers, and how that works is that you go up here to Marketplace. Then you choose a topic that you would like to attend. So let's say I want to attend here the Global EBA Fund. And then what you need to do, and it says it here, join poster by clicking on the lower left sessions box, then you need to click on here. So it's perhaps not sort of 100% obvious. Yeah. So once you're in here, go down to the bottom here, click on the sessions, and that's how you can enter the session. In the live stream, we'll also have in that during that time period a slide explaining and reminding you how to do that. Okay, so I hope that has given you enough information, and then I look forward to seeing you at the networking. See you then. Bye. Hello, everyone. So we are getting to the end of day 1 of our COP, our conference, our community of practice number 6. So we hope you had a good day. We hope you met some new people, perhaps at the networking or the marketplace or the breakout sessions. We've had a really good time. It's been really great to have people from so many places, and especially those from Latin America for whom the time zone is hopefully very good. We hope to see you all again tomorrow, but just in case you can't join because it's the middle of the night, because we're starting early tomorrow morning. So we're starting at 11 a.m. Central European time. So if you don't have a chance to join us then, it would be really great if you could leave us some feedback in the feedback tab. So if you go to the top of the platform, there's a tab called feedback, and it'll only take you 2 to 3 minutes. There's multiple choice questions or rating questions you can answer very quickly, and that would really help us know what you thought of it, and also of course to get some information on perhaps how to do it better or how to make it relevant for you next time. Tomorrow we're looking forward to a great day. So we'll have some keynotes on nature-based solutions beyond just another label. Another keynote on nature-based solutions in relation to global climate protection, some recommendations for international climate policy, and the third one, how to work with nature in climate action, a classification of nature-based solution approaches in Latin America NDCs. And after that, we have we have marketplaces again, and we also have 2 breakout sessions. So lots and lots of topics. I can't read them all out here. I think you know your way around the agenda by now. So check it out. It'll be a really great day, really getting into EBA. And I'd like to leave the day with a quote from Philipp Behrens this morning. He was at the keynote, for those of you who weren't there, from the German Ministry for Environment. Oh, now I don't know it all by heart, but the BMUV, yes, so environment, nature protection, etc. And he said, we can only get better when we learn from each other, reach out to new stakeholders, and continue sharing our experiences. So I think that's really the best quote for why we have this community of practice. And we invite you further to reach out to others, use the platform. Please also share resources at the media wall. So in the networking session I was in, there were some great resources there on monitoring and evaluation. If you can share those with others, also in the media room, that would be really great. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.